When you live in South Florida like we do, the only way to get out is obviously north, hence our options are kind of limited. A good part of the trip involves a tedious, boring, mostly flat highway, no matter which option you take. I-75 is not the worst, but it goes along the west coast, so it's no good for us this time. State Route 27 and US 1 are a little more interesting because they go through cities and small towns, but it takes forever. The Florida Turnpike, it's a horribly boring drive I refuse to take ever again, and to add insult to injury, they actually even charge you for it. My route of choice north is usually Interstate 95. Pretty boring as well, but at least it's toll-free and the quickest way. We finally make it to Daytona Beach at around 9:30 p.m. We find a hotel to spend the night using the Hotels.com iPhone app. It is called La Playa, and it was pretty cheap, $60 for the night. Good morning from Daytona Beach, Florida. We wake up at the crack of dawn to this breathtaking sunrise. Good morning. It is 7:20 in the morning and we have waken up in this near freezing temperatures to photograph the sunrise. Today we continue due north on the east coast of the United States. We're gonna visit St. Augustine, America's oldest city. What else? Jacksonville, and eventually we'll arrive at Savannah, Georgia. Meanwhile, enjoy the sunrise. Sorry if I seemed a little slow back there. I was still half asleep and nearly frozen, but it is time to say goodbye to La Playa. As we continue due north, it wasn't the greatest hotel, but for one night, a comfy bed and the beautiful and frigid oceanfront sunrise we just witnessed, it was more than adequate. We continue driving north here on A1A, and our next destination is the Fort Matanzas. As you can see, I've been demoted to co-pilot. But that's okay, I'm taking a break. Moving along. The A1A runs almost parallel to the Atlantic coast, and we're going to be driving on this road for a while. It is a refreshing break from boring I-95. We pass by Flagler Beach near Palm Coast. This coastal area in northeast Florida is called the First Coast for two main reasons. It is the first coast you see as you enter Florida through Jacksonville. More importantly, this was the first part of Florida colonized by Europeans, namely the Spaniards, as we are about to find out by visiting Fort Matanzas. Fort Matanzas is a national monument, and the National Park Service gives us a free ride on a boat to the fort, which guarded the southern mouth of the Matanzas River which accessed St. Augustine. The fort eventually became a ruin as the Spaniards lost Florida, and it was restored in the early 20th century. One major flaw of the restoration, the watchtower was originally a little narrower, and some other historical discrepancies. Two of the cannons are actually the original ones from the fort. The rest are just replicas.
When they choose the location of the fort, they choose this position because that was the original entrance to this body of water. Today you can see that nature took care of it. Eventually that old area, unless the Army Corps of Engineers come over and dredge it out again, is going to completely get covered by sand. Made with coquina, which is a stone made of crushed shells, and it's actually a fortification that used mortar from lime.
Inside, we can see how life would have been for the poor Spanish soldiers stationed here, how they cooked, how they slept.
Whoa!
How they prayed.
Look at the beds. We're gonna go downstairs and go down to see the sun. We can't. There's too many people up there. Okay. Come on. Come down here.
A ladder gives the only access to the observation deck. Here we can get a commanding view of the Matanzas Inlet. One can only imagine the poor Spanish soldiers seeing the British ships offshore. Our quick excursion to the fort is over, and I must say kudos to the National Park Service, as this whole experience was informative, pleasant in spite of the unusually cold weather, and totally free. There is also a nature trail, but it's not so great, not worth it really. Time to go. But before we do that, it is time to fulfill a childish whim of mine, if you will. I've always wanted to drive on the sand on the beach, actually. All-wheel drive recommended. And over here, they let you do it. Well, also back in Daytona, if you noticed the speed limit signs at sunrise earlier today. But here we go. We drive a few miles north to historic St. Augustine. St. Augustine is the oldest continuously occupied European settlement in the United States, founded in 1565 by Spanish explorer Pedro Menéndez de Avilés. However, Juan Ponce de León was around here before, in 1513, and he claimed the region for the Spanish crown. After a short drive, we arrive. The pretty building in the background is the famous Flagler College.
In 500 feet, at the roundabout.
What? Yeah, the GPS sucks sometimes.
At the roundabout.
What? What's up with Waze? That's it. We're using Google Maps for the rest of the trip. We pass by the San Marcos Castle, built in 1668 after a British attack, and still stands today as the nation's oldest fort, now run by the National Park Service as the Castillo de San Marcos National Monument. The GPS directs us to the closest parking lot. St. Augustine is famous for having the oldest drugstore in the US. I often question the authenticity of these places. Apparently they sold liquor, tobacco, medicine, and Indian remedies. We continue exploring this touristy town. We are walking along St. George's Street here in St. Augustine. This is the main drag, St. George's Street. The tourist trap, if you will. Here's supposedly the United States' oldest wooden school from 1716, although there is an older claim in Staten Island, New York, from 1696. So I have a good conspiracy theory that all this is fake. Who knows? The cobblestone streets, the Cuban flag. I was born in Cuba, so whenever we see the flag, we usually take a picture. The beautiful intercoastal view is a must-do photo opportunity. Well, we'll visit the Ponce de León Fountain of Youth some other time because we are kind of pressed for time now, so we must go on. It's 1 p.m., time to leave. North we go. We decide to take scenic coastal A1A instead of faster I-95 once again. We drive for 45 minutes through Pontevedra Beach, which is mostly oceanfront residential neighborhoods with multi-million-dollar homes and golf courses. Very lavish. We are approaching Jacksonville, Florida, the most populous city in the state, if you only count the people living within the city limits and not the suburbs. Also, quite musical, as popular bands such as Lynyrd Skynyrd and Limp Bizkit both originated here. Also hip-hop acts, 95 South, 69 Boys, and the Quad City DJs, very popular in the 90s. They all came from here. We are now arriving at Jacksonville. And we are super hungry, so we are not going to waste any time with any nonsense. We are going straight to this place called Jacksonville Landing. They are having some kind of Christmas show.
So we decided to break one of Traveler's rules and had lunch at the tourist trap, namely at Hooters. Sometimes you need something familiar.
And the show goes on. I would imagine that a place like this would be more full of people on a Saturday afternoon, but I guess not. Maybe everybody was indoors due to the chilly weather. The Jacksonville Landing was designed and built by the same company that built Miami's Bayside and some other similar places, and one can sort of see the resemblance. Crossing the bridge, we visit the Friendship Fountain on the other side of the river. The water jets move to the rhythm of the music, Bellagio style, but in this case, more bouncy music would definitely enhance the effect, I think.
City of Jacksonville, St. John's River Park and Marina.
Well, time to continue. Not before driving through the historic Riverside neighborhood. One cool thing about this trip going north is the change in vegetation. As you can see, there are no more palm trees. As we continue north, the trees will have less and less leaves. And after a few miles, we are in Georgia. Or should I say, Georgia is on our mind. We are quickly approaching the city of Savannah, Georgia. We're about an hour away. And I-95 seems endless. I have no idea what I want to say. We finally arrive at Savannah. We, or should I say Waze, the GPS, gets a little lost finding the hotel, but we do get there eventually. We have gotten a great deal using the Hotel Tonight app on the iPhone. It must if you're traveling like us with no reservations. We landed at the Hyatt in the historic district.
We have arrived at the Hyatt.
It doesn't really get any better than this. It was less than $100, and of course, when you get these great deals, they nickel and dime you for everything else, but I believe it was worth it.
And that's me. And
we have a great view of the river from our room. Later that night, we take a stroll along River Street, which has a bunch of shops, restaurants, and bars. They have a Wet Willie's, which used to be one of my favorite bars in Miami Beach before it got too popular. We We really want to walk around, but we're exhausted from the long road trip, so we decide to finish the night at the Bohemian Hotel next door, which has a rooftop nightclub called Rocks on the Roof, with live music and great ambiance. From Savannah, Georgia. Good morning. We walk around this historic and beautiful city. We see City Hall from Bull Street, which is right next to our hotel, and then enjoy the beautiful vegetation of Johnson Square. We walk up to Alice Square and City Market, which is a touristy pedestrian street with a bunch of bars and restaurants. At the end of City Market, across Franklin Square, we see the First African Baptist Church, which claims to be derived from the first Black Baptist congregation in North America. They do have a museum. As you've seen, the historic district is dotted with a grid of all these charming squares, such as Chippewa Square, where they filmed the movie Forrest Gump. The actual bench in the movie was a fiberglass prop, and it doesn't really exist. Bummer. Passing by the first Girl Scouts headquarters in the United States, we arrive at Clary's for breakfast. We are having breakfast at Clary's. The place has been here forever. This has been a Savannah hangout place since 1903, and it was made even more famous after it was portrayed in the book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. By Lafayette Square, as we head back north on Abercorn Street, we see the Cathedral of Saint John the Baptist. Its congregation was founded in the late 1700s by French immigrants. A little further down the street, we pass by Colonial Park Cemetery. It's the oldest one in Savannah. It was established in 1750 and is a popular destination for ghost tours. It was vandalized by the federal troops during the Civil War, but it has been restored ever since. We are back at Bay Street, which runs parallel to River Street, where the hotel is, and there's a bunch of quirky shops right behind the riverfront shops. This is the oldest continuously operating English Freemasons lodge in the Western Hemisphere. Yeah, amazing the stuff you learn on the internets. Okay, it's time to leave the comfort of our riverfront room as we must continue on the road, but not before seeing a little more of beautiful Savannah. Grabbing a tip from travel writer Pico Iyer, we turn off the GPS and try to reach our next destination on pure instinct and a sense of orientation. In this case, I'm trying to find Forsyth Park, which is just south of the historic district. And here we are. Let's go around the park. What the heck. Savannah, by the way, is the historical birthplace of Georgia. It was settled in 1733. The city maintains its antebellum charm, antebellum meaning ante, before bellum, war. So basically, it was spared the devastation of the Civil War. The major gave Sherman's men run of the city in exchange for leaving it untouched. Pretty much like the French did with Paris during World War II. That's why that cemetery got all messed up, but everything else was left pretty much intact. So we can see it today. Smart guy, that mayor. Not brave, but smart. Okay, enough of that. We pass by Mansion, which is a very luxurious hotel with a very nice nightclub where I played with my band a few years back. Well, let's see Forsyth Park. The iconic overhanging trees. The Forsyth Fountain, which dates back to 1858. The Spanish moss-draped oak trees. There's a bronze bust of Major General Lafayette McLaws in front of the Confederate monument back there. We walk back to the fountain, which is similar to those in Place La Concorde in Paris. And we make sure we are observing the sidewalk rules, of course. And with that, we almost say goodbye to Savannah for now. Lastly, we cruise along historic Jones Street. It's a very picturesque, luxurious residential area. Of course, the cobblestones don't help with the camera stability, but who cares? We pass by Clarice once again, and the place where I stayed when I came to Savannah with the band back in 2006 or 2007. It's the Blue House. Time to hit the road as we continue relentlessly on our journey north towards New York City. The Talmadge Memorial Bridge spans the Savannah River between the states of Georgia and South Carolina. We are driving on US 17 towards Charleston. And we are now in the great state of South Carolina. After a while on US 17, we move over to I-95 in order to save some time. Our time here in Charleston is very limited, so we're just going to walk along Market Street, see the waterfront, and have a late lunch. The historic downtown, where we are, is located on a peninsula formed by the Ashley and Cooper rivers. The city market on Market Street dates back to the 1790s. The indoor market begins at the historic Market Hall at the corner of Market and Meeting Streets and stretches for 4 blocks, ending at East Bay Street. This is where the also historic Custom House is located. From the dock, we see Arthur Ravenel Bridge and the Charleston Harbor, and Castle Pinckney on tiny Schutz's Folly Island. We have a late lunch at this place called Magnolia's, which was recommended by roadfood.com. It is a fancy, delicious southern cuisine. But time flies when you're having fun, and in the winter it gets dark way too early. We want to reach New York by Christmas Day, so we must say hasta la vista to Charleston and continue due north. Revisiting this pretty town is a must. We will spend the night at North Myrtle Beach. But before checking in at our hotel, we are going to cruise along South Ocean Boulevard, which is the heart of Myrtle Beach. At this time of the year, it's not surprisingly deserted. It is late December and the temperature is pretty low, but it's very much reminiscent of our own Miami Beach. This is another place we must revisit in the summer when it is at its prime. But this time, we're just here to sleep. We are actually staying at a place a little further north. So we're staying at the Baywatch in North Myrtle Beach. This place is like a ghost town. Good morning. Today we continue north towards Wilmington, North Carolina.
Wilmington's historic downtown sits on the northern bank of the Cape Fear River. The city is mostly famous for its beaches, the seafood, and historic plantations. Some antebellum houses and other buildings survived the Civil War as the city didn't see much action. The port, however, was very important to the Confederate side as supplies from England arrived here. We have breakfast at this place called the Dixie Grill, one of the few places we found open this early on Christmas Eve. After breakfast, we walk towards the river. They have also these historic tours on horse-drawn carriages, which seem very informative, but we don't have the time on this particular occasion. We must content ourselves with a stroll along the riverfront and the site of battleship USS North Carolina, moored here, once considered the world's greatest sea weapon and one of the most decorated battleships of World War II. Wilmington was also the filming location of the fictitious town of Capeside from the late 90s TV series Dawson's Creek. This is another place that definitely deserves a less rushed visit. What else is new? Back to the car! We drive around a little bit on this historic downtown area and then it is off to our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. We continue driving towards New York. 3 hours and over 180 miles after we leave Wilmington, North Carolina, we enter the state of Virginia, and naturally, we stop for the photo op. We are driving almost non-stop all the way to Washington, D.C., and we are about halfway there. We pass by Richmond, Virginia, and Fredericksburg. And no matter where you are, traffic will always slow down by the sight of an accident. The weather deteriorates gradually. When we arrive, we would have driven for over 6 hours along 370 miles, nearly non-stop. As night falls, we arrive at our nation's capital, Washington, D.C.
Continue on I-395 North.
Our hotel is the Capitol Skyline, very well located. Actually, you can kind of see the Capitol building from our window. We do a little bit of sightseeing under the cold rain. The Washington Monument. The Capitol building. With this nasty weather, I actually give up on the video camera and just take a few pictures. There's me and my 9-year-old car, which has brought us safely all the way here. This is the Jefferson Memorial, with its famous view of the Washington Monument and the White House. We've had enough of this rain. Let's enjoy Christmas Eve dinner at this place in Georgetown called Farmers Fishers Bakers, after a full day of driving and the horrendous weather we've endured, it's a nice break. In the morning, we take the Baltimore-Washington Parkway. It is a beautiful drive in the early morning mist. It is a shame we couldn't see much of DC this time, but don't worry. Eventually, we have to drive back south, so we'll revisit. We arrive at Baltimore, the M&T Bank Football Stadium, and the Oriole Park. As we reach the Hilton, we turn right onto Camden Street towards the Convention Center. We drive east on Pratt Street and continue roaming the deserted streets. It is Christmas morning after all, so I assume everybody is opening presents. Making this trip is present enough for me. We continue driving along the Inner Harbor and venture into Canton Park. But there's really not a whole lot to see here, so we say enough wandering. Let's head east on O'Donnell Street towards I-95 North. We cross the Susquehanna River, the longest one on the East Coast. And pretty soon we arrive to the state of Delaware and the city of Wilmington, largest city in the state. Off to Philly we go, and guess what? Another state line crossed. Welcome to Pennsylvania.
In a half mile, slight left onto South Penn Square.
As we get off on 15th Street, one of the first things we see is the City Hall to the left. We continue south on 15th Street into the district of South Philly, the birthplace of the Philly cheesesteak, and not exactly the most touristy part of the city, so we turn back north on 16th. This mural is called the Children of Philadelphia and is one of the many murals against crime. These murals are all around the city and they have become a symbol of Philadelphia. South Street is the invisible border between South Philly and Center City. We are just driving around aimlessly. It is not our intention to see Philadelphia today. Everything seems to be closed on Christmas Day, so we just want to take a quick look around and continue on. After a few miles, we are in New Jersey. Sorry, no pull out to take a picture. We have it on good authority that the best place for brunch on Christmas Day is Harold's New York Deli. And don't let the name deceive you, they are located in Edison, New Jersey, and they are famous for the gigantic portions. We definitely ordered too much food. Shake, soup, chili fries, a meatloaf sandwich, a hot dog. What were we thinking? Start spreading the news. I'm arriving today. This is it. We are approaching our final destination. Coming up next, we spend Christmas in New York and then some more. Meanwhile, enjoy the Lincoln Tunnel as we cross underneath the Hudson River. Send your comments or questions to my Twitter or my email, or leave a comment in the YouTube video or the blog. Until next time, thank you so much for watching and see you on the road. Bye now.